Okay, this is OK here, and this will be the second part of a recap video detailing what's been happening in the Crazyhouse Candidates Tournament and looking at some highlighted games and highlighted positions. But actually just playing in front of us is the match between Jan Lee and Upper Wazen. They're just playing some friendly games and they are 6-all between each other. And if things still go as they have been so far, Upper Wazen is actually the most likely person to face Jan Lee in the final of this year's Crazyhouse World Championship, likely in November. So we can watch this for a few moments. So maybe there's an idea of knight takes pawn and dropping a pawn on f2 might be something that black is considering. So white covers f2. So we might just watch this for a little longer, and then I will have a look at some of these highlights from the Crazyhouse World Championship. Just to introduce that, there's a Crazyhouse chess blog, ZH Chess, and if you go to the blog, and that's Jan Lee, the 2017 champion, and click on Crazyhouse World Championship, you can get all the links. I really encourage anyone interested in any chess variant to join this Discord server. And all the upcoming matches are in the calendar, and look at the current standings, and you've got lots of recap posts of what's been happening so far. And also lots of videos. Every candidates game so far has been streamed, so if you go to YouTube, you'll be able to find them. So these are all the well, that's not the correct link, but yeah. If you click on Crazyhouse World Championship, you can see 56 videos, of which from this year's World Championship, and many of them are candidates matches. All the latest ones are candidates matches, and yeah, so I'd also recommend you subscribe to my YouTube channel, but also all the other YouTube channels who are, so if I say view full playlist, you can see Dirt and Gem Dude, who's Upper Wazen, ZH Bras, who are Fumitox, and Little Plotkin and Kyle Legion, James Sun, who's Kryptone, and most importantly, Jan Lee Crazyhouse, who set up a fund for the candidates. And then looking a little bit earlier, and you can see Jan Lee's been doing lots of commentary, even with Yasser, on the Crazyhouse World Championship. And if we go even earlier, we also had some streams from Mugwort Crazyhouse, and he explains very nicely his own reasoning during his games. Most of my streams are commentary, sometimes with other people in the Discord. So yeah, that's stuff to check out. Let's just see how this game is going. So we skipped a few moves. So he blocked that gap. Okay, so Jan sacks his queen to try and maintain his position. So he's succeeded in that sense. And actually, material, he's 2 pawns up, which is interesting. 2 pawns up and still relatively safe apart from this entry point on c2. So c2 is a real problem, yeah. Because pawn takes pawn, if you take it, knight takes will come in. It's not going to be very safe, but if you don't take it, then d1 is going to be weak if black can ever dislodge that knight. So yeah, defending that square rather than taking. If that square is ever vacated, the knight could come in. So okay, so he's now going for another square, c3. So Op is going for c3 here, and also d4. Okay, obviously you don't want to take that, or knight here and queen here will be risky, if not mating. Okay, so Janley picking up more material. So there's a piece up, but he is dropping on c3. So, and even queen takes rook is possible, the queen would be a bit out of the game. So is there some idea? I think it's fine, and there's also knight takes pawn. I don't know, I feel like Oppa should have something here. Knight takes c2 check, and then queen takes bishop. Oh, but knight takes c2. Okay, so he goes on defense. I wonder if he has an attack. Because the pawn's just going to go back on h6. Does he have an attack though? Knight takes c2, he'd have to run to d1 or... Yeah, queen takes here, bishop takes, now knight takes pawn. So the point is this square is no longer covered. That's why queen takes bishop was an idea. Okay, knight takes pawn can come in. Now, yeah, knight takes pawn. He has to run this way. Yeah, maybe it doesn't, not quite mating. But maybe it is. Oh, but now the... Oh, of course, knight takes pawn is covered by the bishop. Okay, there's sort of a little blind spot I'm having. This is very bad. Oh. So he's put the bishop to cover the mate on g7. Okay. Huh. So finally, knight takes e2 does come in. I was completely not seeing the fact the bishop was protecting that earlier. Yeah, but does he have enough? He's got all these knights and he resigns. Doesn't have anything. Okay. So they play on. Janley taking a 7-6 lead. I just wondering, did White have anything? Yeah, in this sort of position. So just turning on the engine. Yeah, black is boss. So queen takes bishop. So defends. Takes. Yeah, there's no chink. Ah. So apparently here. Yeah, so black is winning. Sorry. Yeah, black is winning this. Okay. Queen takes c1, bishop takes c1 here. So now bishop takes d4 is good. Aha, so there is a mate here. But that's a mistake. So the mate was bishop takes f2. If you try and dodge it, the knight is coming to e3 and then taking g4, so there's really no point dodging it. Then pawn at e3. If you step back, you have a rook potentially, a pawn landing on f2 if you step back this way. If you step back straight back, a rook landing on e1. Actually, I'm not sure. I go king f1, rook at e1. Oh, rook at e1. Oh, I see. Just trying to pick up the rook with check. and that creates a space for the knight, so that will be mating. So you can't run back, he has to run up or take. But if he runs up, knight here, check, defended, knight takes pawn. If he ever takes, knight takes pawn is coming in. Okay, knight f3 is not human, so I'm going to go f6 at g5. And if he ever goes to h3, then you have the third knight going to f2 mate. So he runs the other way, and then he's got this check and this mate, or even simpler, at g6, bishop takes g6, f takes g6, mate. Okay, so there wasn't a mating idea, but it needed this bishop takes f2, which is kind of the reason why he went bishop here in the first place, but didn't follow it up in time pressure. I should mention that game 5 in this series just now was really quite nice, because Jan Li is white here, and he puts real pressure on g7, and Opera eventually has to say, okay, I'll just take that rook. But this is mating. Takes. Takes. If you don't take, there's a queen landing and you're getting mated. Here, very nice move, just clearance of the f6 square. Clears the square. Oh, I thought queen at f6 here, but okay. Bishop at g7 first, the idea being that if you take g7, then bishop at f6, king to f8, pawn at g7, and if you go this way, you're getting mated here, and if you go this way, you're getting mated here. So mate either way. If you take it, so oh, he did take it. Okay, he did take it and then ran up. So then queen here, king f5, and now here, the king wants to run to here. So knight here is checkmate. But he did the sort of more obvious thing of just trying to chase the king round, and suddenly the checks run out. The king runs out. So there's only one check left. King runs out. Check here. King runs here. You don't want to run. If you run to a7, you have ideas like pawn here, check, which is mate in 5. And if you run to here, you have pawn here, check. So he naturally runs straight down. But a7 to bring him onto the same row as the queen. And now queen takes pawn. Oh, he could have gone at b6 as well. No, that doesn't work. Yeah, at b6 immediately doesn't. Oh, he hasn't got a pawn. Okay, so he does this, and now he's got the pawn. You're going to take the rook with check. If you just step straight down, then it's going to be knight takes rook. With check, king here, and rook in the corner, checkmate. So you had to go here, pawn takes rook, check. Going here to avoid the queening with check. But there's no avoiding mate. Rook at b7 and knight here, mate. I was thinking to myself, promote to knight, and then the king has to is restricted to these two squares. So suppose the king goes here, and then how would I finish it? Yeah, same idea. Rook here, king has to go here or here. This is cut off, and then either way, knight here will be checkmate. So it was quite a nice, even though Jan Li's mate ran out, he found a nice resource. Pawn here takes with check, and then knight to b6, checkmate. So it was a nice little checkmate. No, so I this is just a warm up to the stream. We're going to start looking at the CWC stuff. Okay, that was just warming up because I just noticed that Jan and Oppa were playing, and just so we see it's 7-6 to Jan at the moment. And, okay, so turning now to the CWC. So it's a slightly delayed start. So we had the first part of this stream already yesterday, and I just want to continue with this today. Okay. So yeah, so we looked at the first 31 chapters yesterday here with Oppa, and we're now going to look at just make sure, yeah. Let's get started on chapter 32. So stage 2 was Sexy I Know It against International Master GSVC. And Sexy I Know It was white, so we're looking from the perspective of GSVC, this game. Okay, so bishop d3. I mean, Stockfish likes just taking the opening initiative with taking the space advantage with e5. But okay, bishop d3 takes. This is all just okay. So putting pressure on the knight. If you can weaken this pawn, you can get in on c3, or just trying to create a weakness on b2. So takes. Now here, how to defend this pawn. So one idea sometimes. So the problem is if you could just move the queen to defend it. That might be an idea. But the problem is black could take and actually hang on. Let me see. If you just move the queen to defend it. Yeah, okay, so black would just double up the pressure. Okay, that's interesting. And if you just defend again, pawn at b2 or something, yeah. So there isn't an immediate knockout blow. Okay, so I thought there might be just with like something pawn takes, queen takes, drop another pawn. But okay, so that is actually reasonable, but it's not necessarily. There isn't necessarily a knockout blow, but there's a lot of pressure on the dark squares with this. And white plays queen d3, which is a very natural looking move. The idea being if you take the pawn, it's going to go rook b1. But there's another defensive idea which is quite nice, which is knight at d3. The idea being that if you take the pawn, I take the bishop. And I thought that was just a good one, a good idea, a good defensive idea to point out, because it's a way of when you need to defend, sometimes the best thing to do is to counterattack. Okay, so how did the game continue? Queen d3 takes, goes here, attacks the queen. Hi there, Hercules, in the voice chat, in the Twitch chat rather. Okay, so he's okay, I see. So he's putting pressure on c4. So the idea, I guess, is if white were to take this bishop, he's going to take the bishop on e4, and threats continue. So he sacks his bishop, which makes perfect sense in order to be able to take black's bishop. Queen e3. Okay, and here GSVC found a really lovely move, which is queen takes knight. And the idea is if you take the pawn, well, I might as well play it. You have knight at g2 check, and you're picking up the queen. However you take, if you take with the pawn, you have bishop takes f3 coming. If you take with the king, you have a really bad position for your white king, and queens have been traded off, so white is losing this. So it's like, so this is effectively a queen trade, but it's a queen trade that benefits black. And yeah, I really like this game because we now have a kind of sequence of, okay, white's checking black and black blocks, exploiting the fact that there's a pin. So the knight can't take the queen, queen can't take the bishop because the queen itself is pinned. So there's a sort of double pin going on, and so white has to just trade queens again and defend. He's got two pieces under attack, both the knight and the pawn. Can't defend both, so he defends the knight, and now that's a weakness. Okay, again, check, defends, attacks the queen. Okay, so then again there's a trade. But now he wins the rook. Okay, so white's position is collapsing in a way. Knight takes d5. And here, GSVC, I think he even found the mate. Rook at f1. And this is a puzzle, so this is a little bit of a spoiler. This is, because along with this video, there's going to be a study of puzzles from the first half of the candidates tournament. And I can post that link to the study in the Twitch chat. Just in case anyone's watching. And I'm going to post it along with the video on YouTube for you to try it out. So most of these puzzles I won't be spoiling, but just to see how this game continued. Yeah, King E2, knight here, knight to D4 check, King E3, Queen E2, King takes D4, C5 check, and at this point White resigns because the point is you can take the pawn en passant, but knight takes pawn is checkmate. So it's a very pretty finish. Okay, so the next one I want to look at is another game between Sexy and GSVC, but this time it was I'm looking from the point of view of Sexy, and I know it. And rather, I think GSVC is clearly trying to get outside opening book, because by game 6 he'd already figured out that Sexy I know is pretty good at openings. And yeah, this bishop. There's concern about the bishop being trapped, but for now it still has the e5 square to go to. So yeah, black seems to be giving up that pawn, but actually he's kind of the piece is sort of pinned. But maybe bishop f4 would be a good way of continuing. And I say knight takes e4, so he does knight takes e4. There's no such time for tactics such as bishop takes c7 because d2 is weak after the knight is taken. So what was he thinking here? I'm trying to work out what I meant by this. Why would you ever want to go bishop takes c7? Oh, okay. So here, okay. So he's worried about d2. I can see this, that he's concerned about d2. But yeah, bishop f4 just seems to keep everything in control. With knight take here, you lose the queen. Okay, I see. So this is like later why it's bad. Okay, because maybe he was hoping when he did this. Yes, this is it. He was hoping when he played this, he's going to pick up a pawn on c7 and drop the pawn on h7. But there's no time for playing something like this because you take off the knight, and you don't have time to drop the pawn on h7 because that pawn is landing. Well, you have mate for starters coming. So you keep on having to defend d2, so you have no time to play the move you want to play, which is h7. And actually, in this line, this is actually going to be mating. Knight here check, and queen here checkmate. And Hercules says, I hope to play you soon. Yeah, I hope to play you soon. Won't be today, because I'm doing this stream, and then later I'm actually on a Lee Chess 45 match this evening, so need to do other things besides chess in the meantime. Okay, so this hasn't really worked out for black. Knight takes d4. Yeah, this is a really nice move. So the idea is, if you take this knight, then there can be. He's just got the pawn that he needs to drop on d2. Knight takes d4 is just picking up the pawn that he needs to, and even a move like this, really weird. The idea just knight takes pawn, queen takes pawn checkmate, a very classic kind of mating idea. I mean, it's a classic mating idea, but to get it by going queen here first, to create the opening on this rank is quite a cute idea. So yeah, if you take it, queen comes in, knight takes pawn, queen here checkmate. So yeah, so in this position, knight takes d4, very powerful because d2 is weak. So he has to just defend d2. So he puts a knight there. Okay, so the queen is coming in on the black positions. The white bishop checks while also defending c2. Bishop d7. At h7, finally, queen takes c1. Yeah, and then this was a very interesting position because both sides are just going all out on the attack. And white defended with knight at d1. And I remember Jan Lee was actually streaming this match, and he did have a sense at this point that there was something in the position, but he couldn't quite see it to the end. So for example, knight f3 check. So if you take with the pawn, then you're creating a space for knight at g2 check, which you have to take, because if you just step up, the rook is landing on e1 with mate, so you have to take it. But now you've got queen takes knight, king takes, bishop, opening up this queen. And now you've got knight, bishop, and rook, with which you're hoping to mate. So bishop, that's not a good move. Knight at d4 is a nice solid move. You just take the knight, and with a knight, bishop, and a rook, that's just going to be enough to mate 2 knights, and then the rook will come in and mate. That's if the pawn takes. If the knight takes, knight here check and knight takes, you have ideas of queen takes knight, and then a double check. Well, it's not quite double check actually, because that pawn's still there. But you have a check, followed by... Yeah, and the problem is white has no... And this is the key. It's not quite mate, but the problem is white has no blockers. So it has to drop the queen. Or if he moves it, say king d2, queen takes, knight's coming in, king here. Pawn takes, knight here, reveal check. These sorts of mates. So in all the variations, it turns out that white's in a bit of trouble. So he has to block the queen, but then you have a queen in hand, and that is also mating with the other queen coming in. So I was going through that a little bit too quickly, but in the study there are loads of these the variations. So so black didn't see the mate, and took this pawn instead. Promotes to queen, blocks, takes, check, blocks, takes. And there were actually two points in that sequence when black could have mated, because if I just go back a second, so at c3 blocks, takes, yeah. So actually, even here there was this crazy mate, because knight at f3 check, some idea, knight takes pawn. So a sort of simpler idea, simply the fact that d2 is weak. So knight at f3 check, if you take with the pawn, you can just take back. If you take with the knight, you can just take back. And if knight takes knight, you just go pawn at d2, and the point is that d2 is weak. If you just step up, pawn takes rook equals knight, and this is not going to end up well. King to e1, and you still have another, queen in hand to finish it off. So you have to take this. But the problem is, if you take it, black can actually sacrifice queen on d2, and with queen and knight in hand, it's mating. So that was a much simpler mate, a little bit earlier. The later one was a little bit more complicated. But okay, so the way the game continued, in fact, was like trying to break through. Okay, he does sacrifice his queen eventually, but he doesn't have enough to break through, and white won on time. Okay, but I thought it was quite an interesting game with quite complex mates, and you can try those mates out in the study, which goes along with this video. Okay, the next one I want to look at is another sexy GSVC match, but this time game 9. And this was actually a mating opportunity for GSVC, but it's crazy complicated. So it looks like these 3 bishops are doing a wonderful job protecting the king. And what actually happened in the game was knight at f3 check. And the point is, if you don't have mate, you're very likely to get mated, because your king is very weak. I mean, so you have to go for something. Knight at f3 takes, knight at g2, king d2. And it looks like the king is very safe, and it's running to even more safety. But there is a mating move, just one mating move. Queen takes d3. And the idea of this is you have a second queen, you have a queen in hand, and you're just going to shift the king onto a square, which will create a weakness on c2. And again, only one move for black in this position, queen at c2. And now you have now white is in trouble because you are in on the position, and this is just one possible mating sequence. You have pawn, knight, and bishop left, and that's just enough. If the king takes on h4, then you go pawn at g5, king goes back, bishop at h4. King goes back, pawn at h3, king to f1, bishop takes g3. The point is there's a lot of weakness. Pawn at e3, pawn at g2. Okay, so that's no good. Going to f1 is going to be trouble. So going to here, this is also going to be trouble because you have knight here, and the knight can't take because queen will come in with mate. Okay, so king f1, queen takes d3, and this is also mating. Pawn at g2 is mate. Yeah. So okay, but or alternative line, if you don't take that pawn, king drops back, sacrifice here, bishop here, pawn here. Sacrifice the knight. You've now got two knights in hand. Yeah, two knights, just enough, along with all these pawns and stuff. Yeah, you got easily enough, in fact. Okay, so that's something to try out against the computer. Some crazy mating idea, but that's a little bit of a hint because it's a crazy hard puzzle. Knight f3, knight here, queen takes bishop, and rook here is the starting idea. So I think it's fair to give a hint if people are taking the trouble to listen to the stream. Okay, so the next one let's have a look at is 42, and it's a puzzle. And it's a puzzle that's not on the practice against computer puzzles. So white's just dropped a bishop here, so white doesn't have very many pieces on the board. It turns out white actually has mate, and this was 12-teen against Blitzbullet, and 12-teen, being the beast at Crazyhouse that he is, in fact found the mate. So knight at g6. The point being, if you take with the h pawn, a rook is landing on h7, and a knight on g5 coming in. Not that one. A new knight on g5, and then a queen on h7. And if you try and dodge that rook, queen on h8 is mate anyway. So you better take it with the f pawn. You can't sidestep because queen at h8 is mate. If you take with the f pawn, now you have some other mate ideas via f7. Drop a rook here. If you take with the rook, this is smothered mate. So you have to take with the king. Oh, now you can get the king out. The king can't go back because a queen drop here, rook here, and the second knight here is checkmate. So king has to come out. And now you can finish the job off. Reveal, check, and checkmate. Okay, so that was just a nice little puzzle. Maybe it is on the puzzles, but I don't remember it. So that's why I thought I'd just share it again. So this is one. So white's on the attack. White is Blitzbullet, black is 12-teen, and again 12-teen, being the beast that he is, did indeed find the mate. Pawn at d2, check. The point is, so what actually happened in the game, I think, was king takes d2. I mean, I could be wrong, but can't remember now. So bishop here takes, knight takes pawn check, knight here check. If the king is pushed into the corner, you're going to get pawns and rooks. You're going to clear the back rank and have another pawn, and then you're going to be mating. I think that's so. King goes towards the knights, and yeah. Anyway, there's a mate that way, and if the king runs this way, what I was saying is you can just use pawns. Yeah, you have enough. Okay, so suppose he tries to dodge that, looks safer, rook at e1, so you clear the back rank, so you're going to do a back rank attack now. Knight takes f3, he's got a pawn in hand, so it's really dangerous. Pawn at g2, so why don't you just go, yeah, alternatively you can go rook e1 and rook to b1, that's an alternative line. Rook e1, king g2, rook g1, and this knight is defended, so that forces him into onto the h file, and now knight at g5 is checkmate. But another way of mating is just pawn at g2, and if you take it, it's the same thing, rook at g1. So if you don't take it, you could promote to knight, that's also mating, or you just go rook at here, and that's also mating. Okay, so lots of little mates. Okay, so what was the next one I want to look at as a highlight? Okay, Opperweizen against JK the Bullfrog. And I just want to see if Opper's still playing. Yeah, he's still playing. So, oh, is he still? Let's see. Yeah, for some reason it says that Opper's playing and Jan isn't, even though they're playing each other. Okay, so this was Opperweizen against JK the Bullfrog, and this was game 1. So we're going to get an e4, e5, and Evans Gambit. b4. So yeah, so I was just saying in the comments, yeah, it does lead to some sharp lines. Stockfish obviously prefers knight c3 and playing rather than sacrificing a pawn so early in the opening, but here we go. Now in this position, black bishop to e7 is probably better, and I think in later games that's what JK did, but in this game he took up the sacrifice. Knight takes e4, bishop takes f7, and this is supposed to be good for white, I think, ignoring what Stockfish says now. I think it's supposed to be quite okay for white. Knight takes c3, bishop takes c3, knight g5 check, king g8, knight at f7. And knight at f7 is a really good find. So this is the one move that's winning for white, which is why it deserves the exclam. Although it's fairly not pawn at f7, nothing like that. So queen f8. So taking the rook, king takes, knight takes h7. So actually in this position, rook at f7 is quite punishing, because the queen moves and then you go on an attack on g7, and the point is, I guess, that if you try to take this, you could go take h7, cleared away all the pawns in front of the black king. Although black would have a lot of minor pieces. So you're just going to replace the pawn, takes, you finally get in, okay, and we got to this position, like, oh, yeah. So you get to this position where white is actually, yeah, there's all this weakness and white is doing not very well. But Opper decided to clear the pawn immediately himself, knight takes h7 with the knight, instead of this idea of doing it later with the rook. And yeah, black has, what I say, is quite an amazing resource here. Knight at f3 check. So the idea is that if king h1, there's going to be pawn at h3. And this is actually quite a bit of a problem. So he took this knight, but the knight comes on h3 check, and takes the pawn. So white is still doing okay here, but it's just a little bit uncomfortable, because black has pieces to mate if white doesn't defend correctly. Oh. So going back, knight takes h7, he comes under the attack. Okay, rook at h5, really good move because it covers h4 as well, because there are future ideas of knight at h4, bishop at g2, which would be potentially mating for black. So rook at h5 is a good defensive move. h6, pawn at g6, king takes g6, and he also takes off the knight, which is the one attacking piece. So okay, really nice defense from Opper. And he's, ooh, so although Stockfish really likes just going knight takes g7, queen takes g7, and then dropping say a knight on e6, threatening, I don't know, threatening the queen and threatening f7. I think this requires more detailed analysis, so I should really have done this one with Opper. So bishop f2 takes, gets an exchange of queens, and in this position, white resigns. Okay, so why is that? It's not an exchange of queens, sorry, he picks up a queen. So white picks up a queen. Ah yes, so this move here, knight, this is quite difficult. Knight here, so he resigns because the queen's going to have to move, and knight is coming in here, and pawns are landing on g2, and there's just no, you can pick off the rook, pawn is landing on g2, and there's no escaping from black's mate. So really nice game from JK the Bullfrog there. So that was What's that one? Okay, the next one, the very last game between JK the Bullfrog and Opper Wason. We'll look from the point of view of JK the Bullfrog, who's white. So castles d6. Yeah. Seems fine. Knight takes e3 is another possibility. Okay, I'm just going to run through. I think there's something at the end that I wanted to highlight. Okay, bishop at f7, defending the weakness. Push, takes, d3. Okay, it's trying to open up the e file. Takes, trying to block up the e file. Yeah, and queen g4 looks like a perfectly reasonable move, but wow, white has mate here, computer's calling, with knight at f6 check. So obviously you have to take it, or queen at h7 to checkmate. But now, pawn at h7. And you could dodge it, or you could take it. But the point is that if you take it, the queen is coming to h6. And this is not good. King h8, you're winning the rook for free. You could block like this, but so a rook would be landing on h8 with checkmate. You're winning the queen, and you're going to get a bishop here and a rook here, checkmating basically. Bishop, king, and rook. So you can't do that. You can't take it. So maybe you sidestep it. But then you've got this, and so we're back into the same position again, with the king going back to h8, and queen takes rook. With the rook in hand, if you take here, rook at h8 is checkmate. So yeah, so knight at f6 was a very nice idea. But instead it's exchange queens, just trying to get through. Exchange queens again. Defend. And here, here again, this very nice idea. So pawn at h7. And so I think this is the mate I wanted to share. And okay, this is a bit of a spoiler because it's in the puzzle study. And it doesn't look like this would work because g8 is so well covered. It's protected by the bishop, the rook, and the king. But queen at g8 does actually work. So there's pressure on g6, so you don't really want to take with the bishop. So you take with the rook. Just to show what happens if you take with the bishop. If you take with the bishop, knight takes, king takes pawn. Pick up the rook with check, king goes back, knight, and knight there's checkmate. Or if the king goes up, king can't go up, the square is covered. So you don't want to take with the bishop, so you take with the rook. Take again. Again, you don't want to take with the bishop for the same reason. Bishop takes, knight takes pawn. You have now a rook in hand to go rook at h8 checkmate. So you take with the king. But now knight e7 check. Noticing that so the king can't run out beyond the d file. And g6 is a problem. So if the king tries to run this way, then you have this check. The king can't run again because you have a rook in hand, so that would be checkmate. So it must take, knight takes. Again, I'm saying the king can't run here because rook here would be checkmate. So it has to run the other way, but you've still got a rook in hand. So rook here, king here, rook here, checkmate. So that's why the king is trying to avoid running to h8 or to f8. So it runs to h7. And now, as if we haven't had an exclam move already, we've got another exclam move. Oh, not just yet. You take the pawn first. Yeah, so rook at h8 I was thinking. But actually, faster mate is you take this first, takes back, and then rook at h8. The king is forced to take, and then you take the bishop. You with the correct knight, you keep this knight penning the king onto the h file. And now, we've only got a pawn and bishop in hand. It seems like we're kind of running out. But with the bishop, the king has to go. Oh, that square is actually covered, but it doesn't matter because one knight will cover h7, and the other knight will swing back to cover h8. So that was just a very pretty sequence. So I'm gonna open. Okay, we're gonna have try and find another puzzle to leave you with, and then I'm gonna pause for a couple of seconds. So that was 56. Next one is 57. Now this is another really nice. This was Master Tan against GSVC. And I'll just quickly. I want to show you. See, Master Tan loses his queen, so GSVC is in good shape in this position. But he's losing his bishop. Okay. So yeah, GSVC is back in good control in this position. Although he sacks his queen to try and get in. And he's almost mating, but not quite. He needs and so Master Tan's doing some good defending here. Okay, now this is the key move. Rook takes f7. What a wonderful move here. Just beginning a counterattack. Then h7. I haven't marked this up properly. So look at this. Rook takes f7, takes back, h7. If you take h7 is probably the best move actually, because then bishop at g6 is what follows. King takes g6. So if you take h7, bishop at g6 takes g6, queen at h5. But if you go here, yeah. So this is the problem. Knight at g6 check. King takes h7. Now, that's a good starter. I mean, what else do you do in this position? You could sack the queen immediately, but this is correct. Knight g6, king takes pawn. Now, white does actually have... So we'll go back to this position. White does actually have mate in this position, and I can turn off the engine. But Master Tan somehow got the move order wrong, and it's quite a tricky mate. And I'm just going to pause for a sec while I just see if I can... to let you think about it, and also because I'm if I can get Oppa into the chat as well. Okay, just trying to get. Maybe he's just been playing Jan Lee, so he might not be available. Some tough games. So yeah, we saw the first move is knight at g6, king takes pawn. Okay, so what are the ideas in this position? So I can play through what actually happened in the game, because that reveals a lot of the key ideas. So bishop here, why was he doing this? To dislocate the queen. Then knight at g5 check. This forces king takes knight. Well, or it forces pawn takes knight, knight takes pawn. So king takes knight is coming at some point. But the problem is queen here, and then the king is somehow running away. And unfortunately, the king did run away. Unfortunately for Master Tan, and yeah, so is there a way of keeping that king? Yeah, okay, so I'm going to have to think about this myself a little. Okay, so let's have a think. So maybe an idea is, hmm. So intuitively, the obvious thing to do would be something like knight g5 first. King takes knight. Then when we put queen at h5, we have queen takes rook. So that's something good. So why did that not happen in the game? We didn't have the queen takes rook at the end of the line. Ah, because the queen was defending the rook. Because the queen had shifted to because the bishop had been dropped on g8. And what was the idea of dropping the bishop on g8? It was to distract the queen from g5. So it was a nice idea trying to distract the queen from g5 so black couldn't just take on g5. So I have to admit this puzzle's kind of tough. So I'm going to have to look again how you do it. Knight at g5. Okay. So the idea is if the king goes back, obviously you've just got queen h8 checkmate. That's easy. If the king takes the knight, you've got queen h5 and queen takes rook checkmate. That's easy. Even if you take the knight, yeah. So taking the knight is the obvious one, and this is only mate in 3, but it's not obvious to me. Yeah, it's a very key idea. You want to go knight takes pawn, but you have to distract the queen. The king can't take it because queen h8 is checkmate. The king can't do something like king takes knight because, yeah, queen h5 and queen takes rook will be checkmate. So queen takes bishop is essential. And now you have queen at h5. Oh, this is so pretty. Queen at h5 and he can block, but knight takes g5 is checkmate then. Wow. So just to go again, if king takes knight, queen here is checkmate. Okay. So in the actual game, Master Tan had this idea of bishop at g8, queen distract the queen, and then we can come in. It's just really important to go knight here first, and then distract the queen, because that way the rook would be so the problem with this way around, okay, is so when you go bishop at g8 first, takes, and then you go knight here, the problem is the king can take the knight. You haven't got the queen h5 stuff because the rook is defended. So when before, if you did knight here, check, and if black did king takes knight, he gets done it immediately with queen h5 and queen takes f7 mate. So he's forced to take the knight. And now is the time, now is the critical time to go bishop at g8. And in fact, the best move, according to the engine, is actually to take the knight with the queen. So now you're going to have a queen in hand, so things are going to be completely different. So if the king, you've got queen takes h5 and queen takes f7 coming, okay, you're going to lose this knight, but you have another queen to drop on h5, so it's just obviously mate. So actually the best move in this position is pawn takes knight, so you double take, but with the queen first, very crucially. And now in this position, still there's only one winning move, incredibly. So if I do something like queen here, check, he just blocks. And if I check him, he then goes to here. That's interesting. So that doesn't mate. So the one winning move is this, because you're gonna want to take that. But then queen h5, check, he might block, but you just got a bishop and a queen and it's checkmate. Bishop at g6, king runs away, and queen here, he might take, but you take back with checkmate. Quite surprising that just going for queen here check immediately doesn't work. But yeah, he's got knight at h6, and if you then try this knight at f8, he can go king g8. Oh, he can go king g8, and the point is, this is the key point, is the king can actually run through this knight. Whereas, say if you dump the queen at h7, the king is running to f8. Whereas in the earlier variation, when you did this, if the king tried to run, now what's the mate into? A classic mating idea. You lure the king back into the corner, and then it's checkmate. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, so there are quite a few more would like to do. So let's have a look at a game between GSVC and Little Plotkin. Actually, a mating idea. No, sorry, GSVC against Opera. Got this wrong. So this was who to play. This was white to play, GSVC to play, and he played a very natural looking move, which was pawn at f7, like give me your queen, in Yes's terminology. Seems like a very reasonable move, and the game would continue queen takes f7. Oh, so this is the problem with this move, is black is threatening mate on e2, so we don't have time to take the queen. We have to first check on b5, protecting the mate, and then we can take the queen. But by going pawn at f7 first, we've given black a pawn to defend that check. So now when we take the queen, he can take the bishop. Now, suppose instead, in this position, that we'd gone bishop at b5 check first. He'd have to go c6. We could take it. Takes back. Pawn at b7. That square has been vacated. Okay, he can take pawn takes bishop, threatening mate. But then pawn takes rook would be too serious a threat. So the bishop is defending mate, and we can continue our attack. We've still got time. This is check, so we can continue. Promote, and then castle. So using every tempo we have ahead of the opponent to keep going. So that was a really good, really subtle point that, yeah, if you give pawn at f7 immediately, you gave him the pawn to defend, and now when you take, he can just take back. And now when you drop on b7, rook b8, and now when you go bishop takes c6 check, he has pawn at d7, and he just had the extra. Now when you castle, he has got 2 knights and queen in hand. And he wants to go knight at h3. He doesn't have, so he just needs, yeah, the knight is defending quite nicely, although e2 is a weakness. I mean, knight at h3 is possible, but you could just take it. Bishop takes, and the threat here is knight at f3 followed by bishop takes g2, and you can't take the knight because of queen at g2 checkmate. So knight at f3, king g1, then bishop takes g2, king takes, knight h4 check, and then with the queen you're going to be mating. So it's going to be really difficult to defend. So going back to the other line, what if you did bishop e5 check first? And then this, and this takes, block. Well, you're promoting with the queen here, castle. So here, you've had to use up one of your knights for defense. So you're like a knight worse off, and your opponent's got a queen on the board. If, for example, in this position, white castled immediately, so this would be a not very good move. Then we'd be in a similar predicament to in the other line. So that would even be a blunder. So the key difference between this line and the other is the fact we can drop the second pawn on this rank, get a queen, and force a knight blocker. So it's quite, I think it's quite nice. Now, what actually happened in the game is quite sad in a way for GSVC, because queen takes pawn. This happened defending here. He did take this queen eventually, so he had a queen in hand. No, in fact, what happened was, I mean, he did something like he castled. I mean, no, he didn't castle immediately, but I think he won the queen, but simply black had the two knights, the queen, and the pawn, and I think Oppa just got him with the classic two knights and queen and diagonal checkmate. So you have to know your checkmates, and just to say, what is that? You go knight at h3, and if you take it, if you don't take it, there's a smothered mate, queen at g1, and knight takes f2 smother. And if you do take it, there's knight at f3, and if you go into the corner, there's pawn at g2, and if you take that, the knight comes out. And you have queen in hand, so you can come up, but then the queen drops here or here, and the king's in trouble. And usually almost mated, unless certain key squares are covered. Okay, so now let's look at the next one, which was Oppa was white against GSVC. But yeah, this is just a you have a knight and queen in hand, so you have to always be careful about your f7 square. And this is just a classic example of this. He could simply take on f7, and the point is this knight is too dangerous, and this is a very nasty move because it forks the two rooks, and it's especially more nasty because you can't take back. The knight comes in, pawn here, and it will be checkmating with queen and rook, and other variations. If you run up, you're not going to be doing any better. You're going to have queen landing. Oh, you have a mate in 1, queen at g5. Okay. Okay, so always watch out for your f7 square. And okay, so the next one I want to have a look at is 12-teen against Clearcast. No, Clearcast against GSVC. And GSVC played at h3. Again, the reason I wanted to share this is just during the game, it's like, okay, but why can't you just take this pawn? And so this is a really nice move because that pawn just can't be taken. If you did take the pawn, suddenly black computer doesn't see it, but actually has mate. Pawn at g2, and this rook on b2 suddenly becomes really important. So you take this pawn. There are other possibilities, like there's king g1, and then you take this queen, and knight here, check, takes, queen takes, pawn here, and you get him on the back rank, pawn here, there. So there are other possibilities, but if you do take it, suddenly you have pawn here, and you can't take it with the bishop, so you have to take it with the rook. And now you have a very sort of, you want to take the rook with check, so you lose a rook on, okay, so you drop the rook there and have it with check. I mean, he could have taken the rook as well. But you have the similar check. And again, the bishop can't take back. So if he goes into the corner, rook at h2 is checkmate. So he goes here. Knight d1, a nice move, just protecting, preventing the queen from guarding these squares. Because now if king f2, we can go. What can we do? We can even go crazy looking though it is. Rook at f1. King takes f1. Pawn here. Has to go here and then promote. Is checkmate. I mean, that's kind of hard to see. But there are other moves that also work, like rook at g2 will work eventually. King f1. Knight to h2 check. King takes e1. And then pawn at d2. And we're going to be picking up the queen. Queen takes d2, bishop takes d2. Okay, so this is ending really in 1, in fact. King d1 and queen, say here, checkmate. Okay, so lots of variations, but let's go still dropping back, takes. We now have a rook in hand, which you can come here to clear out that bishop. And we've now got control of the back rank again, but we don't have a rook. So we're going to do this. And the point of this move is it's checkmate if it weren't for queen takes knight. Now we can win the queen with check. And now we have a queen, so it's really easy. Yeah, so that was just a really brilliant move from GSVC. He didn't necessarily see the full continuation, but it's the power of this rook on the second rank. Okay, so the next one I want to look at is offer against Master Tan. And yeah, this was a really lovely position because with the knight and queen, Oppa has ideas of dropping a knight on d6 and rook takes f7, potentially checkmate, or nearly checkmate. There's only one problem. After knight at d6, black can take, and that creates an open square on c7, and that creates an avenue for the king to run to b8. And there's a very subtle move in this position which stops the king run to b8, and that move is bishop at d7. If the king takes it, you drop the knight, and now that square is blocked. If the bishop takes it, it has the same effect. That square is now blocked. So either way, the square is blocked, and we still have another knight in hand. We can even sack the rook and use our other knight in hand, and now we have a queen. And it's checkmate. The bishop is guarding h3. So I think that was a very instructive and beautiful little puzzle. And it's a little bit of a spoiler, because this was in the puzzles that will go along with this study. Then 12-teen against Master Tan. It should say Master Tan against 12-teen, so that's a slight error. And 12-teen is usually, you can usually bank on him in finding the mates, but in this position, Master Tan left his queen very temptingly on pre, and 12-teen just took the queen. And this was a kind of drawing position, and so what actually happened in the game, that's what happened in the game. But there was a much better thing that 12-teen could have done, which was, for example, go queen takes g2. He has two knights, two bishops, and a pawn, and none of the squares around the king's side are covered. And that's usually enough to get mate, and indeed it is here. Knight at f4, bishop at g4. Use the bishop to defend the knight if you take it. Use another knight. And okay, discovered check. If you go to e1, that's just mate in 1, so go to here, and that's also mate in 1. Okay, so quite pretty, a little bit complex. Like also there are lots of other variations. Like king could take the knight, but then you have knight at e2, and the king could run back to e3, but then you have bishop at f4 and pawn here, and everything's covered. Or the king could run forward, but then you're losing the queen, or you're getting mated. Okay, so there is this sort of nice idea, but there's actually a completely different way of mating in this position, which is knight at e2 first, and this is actually one move quicker, and then queen takes g2. Takes. Okay, so you sack a pawn just to get the bishop defending your knight. Now you've got all the dark squares covered. Now I want you to watch very carefully the pattern that's going to emerge. Bishops and knights work really well together if they're on the same colour squares, because the knights cover the dark squares and the bishops will cover the light squares. So the king will go here, and then knight. So notice these two knights on light squares are covering this sort of tapestry of take out the knights themselves, of dark squares. And together with the bishop, all the squares around the king are covered. Even the squares which are occupied by white's own pieces. Actually, that formation, the bishop, bishop, knight, knight, it's a very powerful formation, and this really emphasizes it. So this is a good pattern to keep in mind. The bishops and knights on the same colors. But it's also a good position to play around with. I think it would be a wonderful position just to play around with this position and see how many different ways you can get mate with, say, with say 2 knights and 2 bishops in this kind of position. I think that would also be a fun thing to play around with. So I'd encourage you to play around with the study. And I'll put the study links with the video. Okay, so one more puzzle. Let's have a look at this one. Well, there'll probably be more puzzles, but maybe a couple more puzzles and a couple more games. Yes, we've seen this already in our recap videos of the stream. This was Master Tan against Schwanet. And Schwanet had the idea of rook at h1, king takes h1, and queen takes bishop. So the king is stuck in the corner, but he can still defend. This is a very, very, very beautiful move here, which is knight f3 first. The idea being that if the rook takes the knight, you're in. Knight here, check. King here, rook here, checkmate. But if the pawn takes the knight, which should be the more important variation, then rook in the corner. Obviously, if you take the rook, queen takes bishop, and you have pawn here, checkmate. And so as not to spoil the puzzle completely, what if the king runs up and tries to run away? Well, try it out against the computer. But mate is coming soon. But yeah, so do check out the puzzle study, this one here, which I'll post the link to. And within this puzzle study are also links to the 2 studies which contain the original stuff. So it's all here. The 2 studies which I'm working from right now, which have, in a sense, the answers to the puzzles. Or usually they do. Okay, so 34. And even if they didn't, you could just turn on the computer analysis and play around with variations in case a variation isn't included. Oh, this is really nice. So this was a position where white had been hoping to play queen f5 and queen takes bishop, and suddenly notices, oh darn, black can block with the queen and it's check. And white is Master Tan, black is clear cast. And it's just a very nice thing that, yes, black can block with the queen and it's check, but you can take it. And if the king takes back, you have queen b3 check, picking up the bishop. Because if he tries to, let's just look at that variation. Queen here. If he tries to block with the bishop, then I was thinking knight here check and then takes the bishop. But yeah, I mean that's true, but for some reason Stockfish even likes this. So block takes, yeah, takes, and we're winning the bishop basically. Okay, what other possibility? You could try and block with the queen, but then knight to f4 really does become a problem. Or queen takes queen, apparently, an even bigger problem. Queen takes queen, king takes. If you king takes, you can get behind the king, and now the king's is restricted just these 2 ranks. Ooh. It's restricted to these 2 ranks, so that's a real problem. And mate in 4 is called, and if you take with the bishop, then I imagine knight to f4. Okay, so there's even better, bishop at f5. So threatening to go queen at d7. And if you take f5, this is checkmate. So yeah, very pretty mate. So going back, obviously you take back with the pawn. Can't take back with the king for all these various reasons. Queen at b3 check. Basically you're picking up the bishop anyway. So you take with the pawn. Now the problem with this move is this creates an open square on f7. Okay, but again black can just defend. So on first sight this is fine, just defend. Bishop at b5, very nice move just to defend mate, so when we swap queens we're not going to be in trouble. Blocks. Check with the knight. Okay, and now we exchange queens. So we get safe at the back and then we exchange queens. Sure, he can throw a few checks. Quite a few checks. Almost worrying. But he hasn't taken our queen yet. So we're just safe for now. And the point is, the moment he does take our queen, he's the one who's getting mated. So, such is life. Okay, now for the penultimate chapter I want to look at. So, penultimate chapter I want to look at is a game between Master Tan and Clearcast as well. Game 8 of their match. Now, what was this about? So let's just play through it. Knight f3, d5, b3, knight f6. Oh yes, I remember this. So this, I'm looking from the point of view of Clearcast, and I just want to highlight this game as really, really beautiful play from Black. White, who is Master Tan in this game, is Clearcast. It is Master Tan, and Clearcast is Black. And the setup for White with the pawns on h3, g3, f2 is a very kind of solid, quite passive setup, quite self-contained setup. No positional weaknesses. Stockfish doesn't like it because it doesn't got much space advantage. So this. Yeah, I don't feel this move's really improved. Even bishop e4 was possible in this position, but Black's king safety is still good. Actually, the pawns on g7 and g6 are actually pretty decent. There is a weakness always on h6, but they're not so bad. And it's worth saying, in Crazyhouse, f takes g6 is more often played than in chess. But just like in chess, it does create a weakness on e6. The advantage is it activates your pieces, and activating your pieces in Crazyhouse is a really good thing. So I want to see, this is a really good example, this game, of how to break down a really difficult structure as White. As White, you've got this really tough structure you've got to work at, and this is a really good example. So notice the importance of replacing the bishop on g7. That's a really key defender. Whenever you exchange off a defender, replace it immediately. And this is again doubling up on this diagonal. It's like very important to maintain control. If you don't control this diagonal, you will be losing. So maintaining control. And similarly, White is trying to maintain control of the weak f3 square. Okay, a nice little move, just picks up a free rook. f5. So knight f5. So he's targeting e3, but he is leaving his own knight hanging. So taking the knight would have probably been the best for White here. But I think he was sufficiently worried about e3 to defend. Okay, and Black simply withdraws the knight, which is withdrawing. Yeah, he should have withdrawn it the previous move, but. Rook at h7. Okay, so the one weakness I said in Black's position was h6. So with this move, he really rook at h7, queen at h7 would both be moves that completely make Black very hard to penetrate. So both sides, as you see, are in each other's camp. They've both set up their camp. So what's the difference? The pieces are equal. And yet, the computer says minus 7.6, and that Black has a good advantage. Well, one advantage Black has is the queen is in hand. So having the piece in hand is always a slight advantage to having it. Oh, and also White's lost a rook. So okay, that's also a big thing. White has lost a rook. So he's lost a rook. Black has a piece in hand, and also just look at piece activity. The white pieces may be okay; they're around, but they're not. This is quite a good piece, but it's not staring at the king. So all the black pieces are they're quite active. Actually, it's quite impressive. Actually, they're all doing something. So. Nice sacrifice of a piece for 2 pawns, which in Crazyhouse is perfectly normal. So White trying to get something in on f6, and Black saying absolutely no. In the meantime, trying to move in on e3, and he does move in on e3. And now here I was wondering, why not at e3 straight away? But he goes for a slightly slower approach, just trying to shoo white's attackers away. And yeah, it's just real slow play. Knight takes g3, so brilliant move. Can't take it back because the bishop is pinned. King goes here. Rook takes bishop check. King takes rook. You could also take back with the knight, but this isn't any better. If you take back with the knight, I've still got knight. You don't even need to take the queen, because the king doesn't want to take the knight, because knight takes queen is taking the queen with check. And then the queen is landing on g3. But this way, the queen is lost anyway. And it's getting mated. But if king takes h2, okay, queen is being lost with check, and rook can't take the queen because again it's pinned. And okay, so Clearcast finished off the game, just basically grinds his way. There are no pawns in front of the white king. They're just all these pieces, and he just grinds his way through and gets the mate. Knight takes bishop check, rook takes bishop check. Can't take back with the pawn because otherwise queen here is checkmate. So has to take back with the knight, and knight here check, and that's checkmate. Okay, so all very nice, but just a little, just to back up a little bit. At this point here, so he's just done this knight g3, knight takes g3, brilliant move, potentially winning the queen. King takes rook. Now in this position, takes the queen, takes back. In this position, with 3 pawns, a knight, a bishop, and 2 queens in hand, there is and the point is it's 2 queens. There's a very beautiful mate for black, and the point is you want to get your queen in, attacking the king, and the beautiful mate is queen here check. You obviously have to take it because otherwise king here, queen here is checkmate. So you take it, but that enables the queen to come in protected. You can't chuck it out now. And now bishop here is checkmate. So, very pretty little mate. So that was a very beautiful, that was a very beautiful game from Clearcast, I think. And I'd like to end this stream with another game from Clearcast. One in which he also won, so good going. I think it's this one. Let's just have a look. So it's a Scandinavian defense. The knights come across trying to harass the queen. And I think it's a puzzle, but we'll see. So the knight was threatening c7, so takes, queen here check. Ooh, so he's winning the queen. No, this is not what I thought it was. Well, this is just, obviously this is crushing. A very nice crushing game, but that wasn't what I thought it was. So let's see. But I'm not going to work out what it was. I did want to. Oh, well, unless there was something else during this game. Okay, hang on. 235. Oh. No, I don't think this is right. Yeah, so f7 check was fine. There were other mates, but this wasn't the one. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's yeah, I think that's everything. Just to show you the practice against computer study. So that's this one. So we've seen some of these mates already because we've had some spoilers. We saw this one's a really difficult one. You have to go knight here check to begin with, and then knight here check. and then queen takes bishop. So that's the beginning to get in on the king. Computer's not convinced it sees mate. What? Yes, it does see mate. Anyway, so that's that knight suddenly changed color. Okay, so that was one of them, and you have to finish that off. Then there's this one. This is another tough one. I'm just going to have a look at some of these tough ones, which I've mentioned earlier in the stream, but just to recap. Pawn at h7, maybe? Yeah, this was the one we saw with pawn at h7, and the point is that we have this really cool tactic with queen at g8, because knight takes g6 is so threatening that he can never take with the bishop. So he has to take with the king. But then we have knight at e2, and then at g6, takes g6, and rook here, and this knight comes in, keeping the king tied down, and then, so he's got only 2 squares to go to. Oh, so the thing is, you'd think of going like knight here. That would work. Yeah, so why can't I go knight here, king here, and then knight here? Why does that not work? Isn't that mate in 2? Oh, no, it's not mate in 2, because knight here, check, king here, knight here, the king would run to g8. So that's why you have this genius move, bishop at g8, just to block off g8, and now knight f8. Yeah. So really nice, really nice little puzzle. And this one. I don't remember this one. Master 10 GSVC Game 10. Yes, that's what I want to look at. Maybe it was Master 10 GSVC Game 10. Okay, I'm going to get offer in if I can. And we'll have a look at Master 10 GSVC Game 10. If it's here. Is it here? Master 10. Because that was really pretty. So let's just remind ourselves of this one. Have we looked at this already? Oh, yeah, we did look at this. Did we? Maybe we didn't. Okay, so let's just have a look again. Master 10, GSVC game 10. Yeah, we did look at this, I think. The idea, oh yes, this one. Getting the right move order. Yeah, this was really tricky. Getting the right move order for this game. Yeah, so we can, oh, but this is not correctly labeled. Ooh, because this is not Master 10 GSV, is it? Let's have a look. Yeah, this is Master 10 GSVC Game 10, for sure. So this was the almost mate. Knight here, check. And the point was, you have to go knight g5 check first to force queen takes. Because if he goes pawn takes, you had this crazy move, bishop at g8, queen takes. And now you can do knight takes, but you first go queen, block, and then knight takes, and it's checkmate. So very simple, like mate in 3, following with bishop g8. But okay, knight takes queen, so winning the queen with check, that's always good. Then we go queen here, check, and I've just made a mistake. Okay, so I need to calculate this better. I have to go, yeah, because if I go queen here, check, he can block. No, he can run. Is it? No, he can block and then run. Yeah, he can block, and then when I go knight f8, he can run. So I have to go knight f8 first to create a blocker on f8. So the king can't then take it. And now when the queen comes in, everything is covered up. Okay. So that's that. Yeah, Oppa can't join because he has to go eat. So that's fine. So, and then what was this last one? Must turn GSVC. This one. Okay, so we'll do this one and then we'll end the stream. So and I can't set it. I'm not. Yeah, I haven't. I've invited him to have a look at it, but I haven't actually got it set so it syncs up, so we won't be able to see when he's thinking about it. Okay, so we've got 2 knights, 2 bishops, 2 queens, and a pawn. So have we seen this one already? Okay, so what the natural thing to try is, can we try out queen at g8? But he'd just take this. So what's the idea? Another idea, we could have knight takes g6 at some point, distracting the rook. But no, what's the point? Okay, so queen here. Suppose he just goes knight takes. Then we could go pawn takes, queen, and then rook takes. But then we'd have 2 knights. So if we have a knight, maybe we could have a knight here and a knight. We could distract the rook and get a knight in here, something like this. But as with that last one we saw, move order might be really important. Like, do we go knight takes g3 first or not? So I think, is knight takes g3 first a good idea? Then he takes, then queen here, check. And then, in some order, takes, 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 and then knight drop here. Then when the king comes here, we can then go bishop takes rook. So maybe the move order in this one actually doesn't matter. I think I remember now. I'm going to go with knight takes g3 first. Maybe that wasn't the best. Maybe that wasn't the fastest. Queen at g1. Takes here. And, oh, shoot. King takes. Hadn't thought of that one. So I'm afraid of the king running now. I mean, I want to go pawn here, but I'm slightly afraid it runs. And then the other thing I'm thinking of is knight here. Oh yes, because if the king ever runs here, I've always got bishop takes rook. So knight here looks really good. Because now I've got bishop takes rook. So we'll get there eventually, hopefully. But let's have a think now. So I want to put. I can always block off the king's escape with, say, a queen. But I still need a way of delivering the final mate. I could also put a rook here. Yeah, we have a lot of material, so, and then we can liquidate the rook and so on. But so it should be very easy to find a mate. But how to find a mate in 3? Mate in 3 is not that many, so we want to really seal it off and get some nice checks. So maybe if we could distract the rook somehow. So maybe like a rook here. Doesn't quite work. Maybe a rook here, and then when the rook comes here, we got that's what that will do. We're queen. So something like this. Rook here. The idea is, okay, this is not the best, but the idea was queen here. So he's forced to the back rank. And now, I could put a pawn here. I could just go queen takes rook. I mean, okay, queen takes rook. He's still running. Bishop here stops him from running for a bit. Oh, knight here really stops him from running. but not enough. So I'm making a little bit of a hash of this one. Okay, bishop here absolutely stops him from running. So just do this, and he is mated. And put that here. Okay. So that was all very well, but obviously my mating leaves a lot to be desired. So in this position, that seems fine. But what you can ask for the hint and see the best move. Oh, queen takes rook. Is it? Yeah, queen takes rook. It thinks is the best move. So it's still mate in 2. Get a hint, see the best move. Oh, queen takes pawn. Okay. And then rook here or here is checkmate. Okay, but that wasn't the mate I remembered for that one, so I am a little confused. But must turn GSVC 10. Let's just have a look in the game. Must turn GSVC 10. Let's see if I can find. I think it's mislabeled. That was something funny about this. So it's not those two. It's definitely master turn against GSVC, and it's a mate. I mean, it's not this one. This was another. Yeah, this is another mate. Oh, yeah, this is a really nice mate. This is you'll see this in the study, and you'll see it in the puzzle study. I haven't gone over it. It's very nice. Oh, 58. Yes, it's this one. Loading. No, that's not this one. Was it in this game? No, it's not this game at all. I'm very confused as to which game it is. But anyway, it was a mate from one of the games. Somehow it's mislabeled, which is not ideal. But so if I just go right to the beginning again, knight takes g3 maybe wasn't the best. Okay, so I want to delete from here. So I'm supposed to clear it because otherwise I'm messing up the puzzle for others if it's not clear. Okay, so let's just see what the hint was for the best move. So it's queen at g1 immediately. So he takes. Let's see the best move. Takes immediately. Takes, because I think it was prettier. Then go knight takes pawn. Okay, because the point is the knight is defending this square, so that's why he has to take with the rook. Okay, let's continue from here. So now we go knight here check. Yes, this is much prettier. Queen here check. And bishop takes rook checkmate. Okay, so that's how I should have done it in the first place, instead of sending the king on a run. Anyway, so that's just a recap of some of the cool positions and some of the cool games from the first half of the Crazyhouse World Championship Candidates Tournament. So, hope you've enjoyed, and this is OK signing out. Obaku says, bishop takes e3 a thing. And I'm so far behind that I'm not quite sure which chapter this is on now. But let's see. This is the previous one I looked at. So it wasn't this one. And yeah, not sure. Okay, sorry. maybe this one. Bishop takes e3. Anyway, okay, I'm going to have to just delete all my additions, and you can see people can try it out from scratch. Okay, so I'm going to post all, as I said, all these links with. I'll post a link to this study, and inside the study you get the links to everything else inside the video. Yeah, sorry it hasn't been clearer. And Oppa was playing Jan Lee, so he couldn't join us for today. But okay, thanks everyone for watching.